And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at a game called Samurai by Reiner Knizia. Now, you may have heard of Samurai before, and that's because it is over a decade old. This is a new reprinting of the game from Fantasy Flight Games. It's in their Euro Classics line. The first was Tigers and Euphrates, also by Reiner Knizia. This is a game that got a lot of buzz. I remember when I played this game back in the day. It's been probably over a decade since I played this, and I remember thinking, that's okay. Well, let's see if this new version, how it holds up. I don't know that the rules have changed at all since the original one. It seems to be the same to me. But let's see how the game has held up over the years. At the beginning of the game, you're going to set up a board based on the number of players. I'm showing you a 3-player board. If you were playing with 2 players, you wouldn't use these 2 small islands. If you were playing with 4 players, you would add another whole section here. Now, what players will do at the beginning of the game is they'll take turns placing 3 different resources out here, or 3 different cased symbols. We have religion, military, and commerce, and each of the icons on the board will get 1, a few will get 2, and there's a couple that will get all 3. Now, players can take turns putting those out, or you can just put them out randomly, which is what I would recommend. Players are going to get a whole pile of tiles, and they're going to go through that pile of tiles, and they're going to choose their starting 5 tiles. The rest they're going to put into a pile that they'll be drawing from. They also have a shield. This shows all the different tiles that players have in the game. They have a 2, 3, and 4 for each of the 3 castes. They have 2 1s, 2 2s, and a 3, which are basically wilds. They work with all the castes. They have 3 ships. They have 2 special action tiles, and they have 1 wild tile here, but it's a speed tile. These tiles here have little red symbols on them. Essentially, that means when you play those on your turn, you can play them basically for free. You can play an additional tile. So what you're going to do on your turn is you're going to take a tile and you're going to place it on the board in a legal spot. Now, for most of the pieces, a legal spot is simply just going to be a land spot, and if it's a ship piece, then you can place it in a in an ocean spot. So you're allowed to put these tiles here on the board. There's a couple tiles that have special abilities, like this one here, which lets you switch 2 tiles that are already on the board. And I mentioned that if a tile has the fast icon, like this one here, and after you play it, you can play another tile. In fact, you could play multiples of those. Now, after a turn is over, if a turn is over and all the land spaces next to a tile are filled. So let's say this tile is here, and I look, and this is the economic one here with the grain, and so red has a 2, and this is a wild, so 3, and I have a 3, but I also have a ship, so 4 next to this one. You do not have to have all the sea areas, but as soon as everything next one is done, we see who gets this. That person's going to immediately take that resource and put it behind their screen. If nobody is the winner, if there's a tie, then nobody gets the resource, and you put it off to the side. Now, the game is going to end when all the cased pieces of one type are gone off the board, or when there's 4 that have been set aside due to tie results. That's basically the game. You're going to put down your pieces, and you're going to be trying to surround the different pieces with as many of yours. Now, where the game is unusual is in its victory conditions. You have these 3 pieces here, which fit together to show the 3 different types. And each person is going to see how many types they've won. You have the most of that type. If you have the most of a certain type, you'll take one of these. If anyone gets 2 of these, they win. That will likely not happen. In that case, you set aside all the pieces of what you've won, and you count all the pieces of the other 2 castes in which you don't have one of these tokens, and whoever has the most of those is the winner. So let's say, for example, I win, I have the most wheat, and Joe has the most of the religion, and Bob has the most here. Then I would get rid of this, and I would count up my religion and my military pieces. And if they're more than Bob's wheat and his economics, and more than Joe's the two that Joe is missing, then I would win. It's not very difficult, but just a little bit difficult to grasp in your head. That's how you play. The components for this game are nice, although the components for the original game were also really nice. They had like these little, almost, they looked like candy, the different pieces. They had a more abstract look to them than these plastic pieces in this game. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. They're both nice. It's a nice looking game. But you have to realize as you get into this game that it is abstract. There is no Japan. There's no military and religious and economic. Okay, it's abstract all the way. That's fine. It's kind of an area control style game in which you are putting down tiles to control these different things on the board. And what you're looking for, initially it's pretty obvious, like, oh, there's 2 grain, and I could put this 4 grain in between both of those. But what you'll find in this game, and what I find fascinating is, it always feels like you're losing everywhere. Oh, I'm not winning here, I'm not winning here, I'm going to try to win this one thing. And you want to win more than everybody else, but you're also trying to go towards that end game scoring. And whenever you hear people talk about Samurai, they're always mentioning this end game scoring, which today isn't as groundbreaking, but back then it was a big deal. The thing you had the most of was probably what you were going to score in the things you had the second or third most of, which is kind of a riff on his other game, Tigris and Euphrates. This is something Knizia likes to do, where he has, you need to get everything if possible, but here there's only 3 things to get. So you can't just concentrate on one. A couple of things I really like. I like that you have that initial hand of 5 tiles that you can pick. So you can pick what you're going to start with. I like the game's speed. It's about 30 minutes. It's not a very long game. I like how the game looks. I like that the game works really well with the number of players, but I think it works especially well as a 3-player game. And even though this is not a game that gets me super excited, I play it, I'm like, oh, I do enjoy the experience. And there can be some little bit of stressful moments there as you're trying to figure out exactly where to play your ships. You only have a few of them, and there's lots of sea all over the board. Where can you place them around the cities? And putting the second last tile in the city, you gotta be careful because someone else could then finish it with a bigger tile. Maybe they'll win that one. And with those cities with 3 in it, you want to try to get your wilds next to that one. There's some pretty deep strategy and tactics in this game, I think. It's certainly not going to appeal to everybody, but if you're looking for a fast game that offers a pretty in-depth experience with some very nice, if abstract, pieces, then check out Samurai. Dice Tower Judgment approved!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!